Hello and welcome back to another Demis Hellen tutorial. We are going to look at two plugins that come from Analog Obsession, which is the top one, Yala, the compressor amplifier, and then we have the Analog Obsession program equalizer called Rare. Now, both of them are very powerful in terms of their sound output. They are truly amazing plugins for free, and they are well and truly embedded into my mixes now. So Yala is a compressor, and even though it offers nothing much visually, it's doing a lot of stuff, and at the same time Rare has got some serious power behind it as well. So we're going to look at both of them and see what environments they work best in on my trance projects, and they are definitely embedded into my mixes now, as they are some really nice sounding plugins. And you know how I feel about free plugins, they sound really nice, they stay in. So first things first, we will look at the bass line here. So we've got Yala deactivated there because I was just testing it out the bass before, but we're going to look at the EQ. So essentially what this is doing is you have a boosting section for your lows and your highs basically, and then you can set this bandwidth to either broad or sharp in terms of how they are affected. So it's essentially like an amplifier which is boosting the sounds, and then you attenuate the output. So it's basically feeding quite a lot of gain into the plugin, and then you attenuate it before it leaves the plugin and carries on through your chain. So if we just listen to this bass line now without this on, this is where we left the bass in the previous tutorial, and I thought let's try some new plugins, and this is what we came up with. And as soon as you add this in, it just adds a ton of weight, and there is a lot more harmonic content there. It makes everything gel together a lot nicer. So if we just load up another version of this Analog Obsession Rare, and we'll disable the first one. So now you can hear we have the on and off switch here, so we can A/B the presets, and the boost is for the low. So you can see you can attenuate that output, and then the same for the highs. And then you have a bandwidth section. So if we increase this, so it's like having a Q on your EQ. So that's narrowing the Q, that's broadening the Q across your equalizer, and it seems to work a lot better in my experience of using the plugin for the last couple of days. Kind of midway between sharp and broad. I tend to kind of go a little bit more towards the broad, depending on what you're trying to do. This particular bass has gone a bit narrower because I wanted to go for that kind of honed in feel on the particular elements of the bass, and you can control how much low frequency is boosted essentially here. And if we actually boost something here to just 5, so in my opinion 30 sounds pretty good for this bass, and then you can just attenuate it just to keep it under control. And then we've boosted the highs here and we've attenuated them already, and you get a nice Q feature for your top as well, which I know is probably doing a little bit more than just being a Q, but you can hear it's a lot narrower there, and you're getting a lot more resonance, whereas here you're getting a lot less, it's more broad. So if we switch this off, you can see how much character it's added into that bass line. And then you have your attenuation selector here, so it controls how hard it attenuates your signal on the way out. You've also got this minus 12 to 12 dB gain here to obviously keep your line level balanced as it's going back out. And that is pretty much that on the bass line. So you can hear, if we just disable what we've been doing, go back to the original, and listen to the track without that. And we'll just get rid of the acid for a second. So we've got a well-balanced mix of 3 bass lines. If you haven't seen that video, it's on screen now. But it sounds good, but it's missing that. It's just totally missing the whole character. There is no other way about it. It's got a good rhythm, it's got a good sound, but it's not getting that energy, it's not pumping it out. And this is going to put that out there. And you're not just boosting the lows, you are basically essentially adding extra stuff into the sound, the harmonics, and then obviously your boosts that you're putting in there, and it sounds really, really good. So I'm a big fan. Okay, so that is a look on there. I would say rare is probably the best for basses in my opinion. I technically wouldn't apply it to a synth lead line. I've got other plans for my leads, but it's not to say that you couldn't use it. We'll probably have a look at it in a later video, using it on different elements, but in my opinion, basses do benefit from rare a lot more in the electronic scene. So now moving on to Yala, the compressor. There's a few facts. There's not much on the website itself, but on the KVR forum, which I will link below, you can see some of the details that I'm going to explain here. So what we have, if we just play this, is we have an attenuation and a volume section here. So what the plugin is doing is automatically feeding 63 decibel gain into the limiter of this plugin. So it's automatically doing a lot of work. If we was to just reset this by loading it again, essentially it's already adding compression by about -3 to -2 decibels with a really, really broad knee, so it makes it very transparent and unnoticeable. But it said that it's adding a lot of harmonics, and I can hear that. So you'll get a nice fuller sound from this. And what we're doing here is it's basically an amplifier, compressor amplifier as it says here, and when you boost the volume, it starts to apply the compression, and you've got a release and threshold section here. And the threshold is said to be the threshold and the ratio being set at the same time. And the attenuation is only for the output. So all these things are working together, but not in a conventional order that you would see on screen from left to right. So if you look at the volume, we can feed more in, but we have to attenuate the volume out. So the compressor is doing its job, and then you can balance it out. It's basically like a makeup gain. Let's turn this release down. Let's turn this threshold up a little bit. So we'll just balance this out. So if we now bypass this, we've got an acid lead. But now, when we put this on, we have an acid lead that has got a ton of extra harmonic content, and it's not too audible. It just sounds like it's getting louder, which technically it is, but there is a lot more detail in there. It's warmer for a start, something that you wasn't getting from that prior. It's very cold and mid-centered. And that is partly due to the EQ that I've put on there. But if we listen to this in the mix now, it's sounding well. It sounds nicely sat in the mix. It's not too loud. It's not sat on top of the mix. It's nicely integrated into the whole composition. But if we was to turn this off, we've just got a sound, and you can hear that it's just sat in its own space, not really integrating with the track. So it's very flat. And then here we're adding tons of harmonic, and it's really expanding the dynamics of it as well, because it's got a lot more character. Whereas, yeah, very flat, very boring. It's just like a really boring friend down at the pub. Not really much to say into the conversation. Whereas here, you've got a really, really energetic sound. It's added tons and tons of extra energy in there that didn't exist before this plugin was turned on. So you can see how the amplifier is boosting the signal prior, and then you're just attenuating the output and obviously tweaking the release and threshold here. As for when you increase the threshold, I don't know how the ratio is affected at the same time. It doesn't really say, but maybe we'll find out at some point. But overall, these two plugins from Analog Obsessions are firmly in my favourite free plugins section. As you can see, just listen to the track. I've only added two plugins, one to the bass, one to the acid lead. If we remove this and this, it's just a well-balanced mix. There's no energy, there's no character, there's no harmonics, there's nothing. Add them in. They sound really good. So if you do agree that they sound good, let me know in the comments. I will leave the link in the description to both of these. I'll just leave it to the homepage of Analog Obsession. Some cracking plugins on there. There's also some paid plugins. So I'm yet to decide if I'm going to take the plunge and get one. But I'll have a look around some videos and see what they're like first. So that is the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments down below. Hit the like button if you think it deserves it, and also subscribe. 3 videos a week, Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and who says there isn't going to be any more in between then as well. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.